Wouldn't it be nice if we could find restaurants where the menu was solely based on anyone's chronic condition and you could simply ask for a menu for your IBM or other comorbidities you may have? Until that occurs, we'll have to figure out by ourselves, and that may take some homework on everyone's part. Because multi-comorbidity superfood lists aren't readily available, I plan on showing you the list that I've been following for the past year or so. Get ready, this could be a bumpy ride. In the early 2000s, something went amiss in my body that launched me not only on my IBM journey, but also battles with low blood platelets, diabetes 2, to list the major ones, as well as atrial fibrillation of the heart. The atrial fibrillation was taken care of with the implantation of a pacemaker in 2017 that has to date taken care of that problem. Consuming certain items from subject matter experts' lists of superfoods that might minimize each of the other conditions, I am now at a very minimal dosage of prescribed medicines for the diabetes and low platelet chronic conditions. As we IBMers all recognize, there may be some overlap between our diseases, and what may be good as nutrition in one disease may not be the best in another. Unfortunately, I can't report on any superfood consumption that I can say slowed my IBM. Let's recognize the fact that taking care of your comorbidities may make it easier to contend with your IBM. I've experienced some positive results by simply following the superfood lists established for my various chronic conditions that have helped me considerably in choosing what I put in my mouth. Following the recommended superfood list, my blood platelets have been in the safe range for the past 18 months, with the exception of dangerously high platelet counts shortly after receiving both my Pfizer shots for COVID-19 that placed me on the Center for Disease Control Monitor list. As might be expected, following some of the superfood list suggestions has my diabetes under better control as well. And also great news, recently there's been some recommended advice published that might help myositis. Only time will tell on that one. So, how was I successful in controlling my diabetes and low platelets? My first step was spending some of my free time searching internet articles and watching some very credible videos produced by people experienced in the subject matter, with some of them published by doctors of medicine. Although my IBM has altered how I get food into my mouth, and the same IBM makes me think about how long I chew on each and every food bite before sending it down my dysphagic swallowing throat, I have shifted my diet over the past 2 or 3 years to be more human body friendly. For example, I've learned to consider the hamburger as a steak burger, realizing that the hamburger bun added little to the taste, but only allowed the hamburger to become a finger or hand food. I did myself a favor by eating the beef patty, the lettuce, tomato, onions, and pickles, and consumed all without the bun. If my memory serves me right, reports indicate that 1 in 5 adults suffer from diabetes or prediabetes. That's 20% of the population, even affects people with IBM, so referencing IBMers with diabetes is important to so many of us. I started a list of recommended superfoods found for my 3 major conditions, my diabetes, low platelets, and recently added IBM. To check the overlap between the superfood lists, I put everything in a chart and used a simple check mark to indicate whether or not the food type was recommended for one or more of my diseases. I did find a lot of overlap, probably reinforcing the need to eat more of those foods. I also place some important reminders under each type of food. And guess what? Following some simple superfood guidelines is one of the best ways to help manage your chronic condition and lose some weight at the same time. As an IBMer, losing weight is a good thing, as it is less weight mass that your weakening muscles will have to lift. Losing weight is also advantageous to your caregiver, who will someday have to help support your load. I'm not going to bore you with my superfood checklist because your chronic conditions are most likely different than mine. But I can assure you that some positive results will occur if you make a list for all your chronic conditions and follow it for 1 month. As most of the superfood lists will increase the amount of fiber in your diet, it may also take care of some of your constipation problems we often hear about from IBMers. And I'm not starving myself by any means. Yesterday I devoured a half a pizza that was prepared with a cauliflower crust, cheese, pepperoni, and green peppers, and it did not spike my diabetes. Although I mentioned to cut the bread and the fried breaded products, I still have one piece of bread every morning with my breakfast, but it is made from sprouted grains rather than enriched flour, and is only 1/2 to 1/3 of the carbohydrates found in store-bought or homemade bread. It tastes the same, but with far less calories and carbs than regular bread. And diabetics, knowing that potatoes, noodles, and rice are dangerous, may have already found the substitutes of quinoa, farro, freekeh, shirataki rice, and cauliflower rice, all 5 which were checked and available at my local grocer. Eating and drinking in a more healthy fashion didn't mean that I had to give up 2 or 3 beers that I enjoy each week either, but sadly I have to drink them through a frickin' straw. Between a better selection of foods that I put in my mouth, as well as practicing just a little bit of portion control, my diabetes A1C test is now in the lower 6s. My platelets have been in the recommended range, and my weight loss over the last 5 years has made it easier for Cindy to assist me. Now here's the hard pill to swallow. If you are the type that thinks you want to enjoy every and any type of food while you can still eat, get prepared to pay the piper for doing that when you reach the lower stage 2 or getting into stage 3 of IBM. Eating healthier foods from the superfood list you compiled for yourself will pay some appreciated dividends down the road for you and your caregiver. The clock is running. What's on your chronic disease superfood list? Make a chart now.